I moved to Lake Greenwood on a breezy Saturday in early June, the kind of day when everything feels like it's been brushed clean by the wind. I'd just finished my first year as a high school science teacher and was looking for quiet. The kind of quiet where you could hear the lake lap against the shore, where neighbors waved as they paddled by in kayaks, and where the worst thing that might happen was a bird's nest in your mailbox. I thought I'd found it here. This calm, little neighborhood by the lake, a place where time walked instead of ran. I had a plan for my yard, a mix of grass and a small native patch to help bees and butterflies. Simple, quiet, friendly. I grew up mowing lawns for extra cash, so I knew how to keep things neat. But I also knew the quiet miracles of milkweed and black-eyed Susans, things that didn't fit into the manicured rows of a conventional lawn. 3 days in, everything was perfect. I met Mr. Brooks, a retired mailman who walked his dog every morning while jazz hummed softly from his radio. I waved at the Dawson kids fishing at the dock, and I dropped off banana bread at Tom and Emily's across the street. People smiled. They said, "Welcome, Jake." It felt like home. Then came the letter. It wasn't just any letter. It looked like the kind of invitation you get to a wedding. Thick paper, embossed with gold lettering. "Welcome to Lake Greenwood HOA," it read. It was polite, but carried a warning. "Please attend our mandatory homeowner orientation Friday at 6 p.m. Failure to comply may result in fines." The next Friday, I arrived at the clubhouse, cookies in hand, expecting something casual. The smell of lemon cleaner and old coffee hit me the moment I walked in. There were folding chairs lined up, a projector screen at the front, and a woman with hair so tightly sprayed it could have been used as a weapon. She stood by the podium with a plastic smile that never quite reached her eyes. Her name tag read Karen, and her eyes didn't miss a thing when they landed on me. "Cookies?" I said, lifting the plate, trying to be friendly. "We don't accept food due to allergies," she said, not looking at me, but at the cookies like they were contaminated. "Please keep them away from surfaces." "Got it." I stepped back, feeling like an idiot. "I see you're new," she said, eyes narrowing slightly. "You've already received 2 courtesy notices." I blinked. "I have?" "Yes. Your mower lines were diagonal, not straight north-south." She didn't even blink when she said this, as if that was a legitimate crime. "And your trash can was visible for precisely 18 minutes after pickup instead of being stored immediately. Lake Greenwood is a brand, Mr. Harris." I wanted to say something sarcastic. Something like, "A brand? Really?" "It's a lake, Karen, not a product line," but I didn't. Instead, I nodded. "I'll keep that in mind," I said. She didn't look convinced. Then she pulled out a laminated sheet, like a game board with rules about acceptable plants, acceptable fence heights, and approved grass types. At the bottom, in bold, it said, "No native patches, monoculture turf only." "Excuse me," I said, trying to be gentle. "I was planning on a small native bed. Nothing wild. The city has a program for it." Her smile vanished in an instant. "Lake Greenwood doesn't follow city rules. We follow HOA rules." I knew I was walking a fine line, but I tried again. "I totally respect the community. I just think we can care for the lake and the bees too." That was it. Karen's smile turned off like a light, and she handed me a fine. For a flower bed that was compliant with city regulations. For some flowers that were helping bees and butterflies, not harming anyone. A few days later, I got another fine. And another. My grass was too long. My flowers were the wrong color. Karen seemed to have an army of eyes watching my every move. It wasn't just a fine here and there anymore. It was harassment, and I couldn't prove it. I reached out to the city's environmental department and surprisingly got a response from Sarah, a woman who confirmed that my native patch was compliant with the city's Green Yards program. That gave me some peace of mind, but the fines kept coming. They piled up. 300. 400. It was like a game to her, one she was hell-bent on winning. Then the day came when I saw a white truck turning the corner. Code enforcement. I watched as Karen, standing by her pristine lawn, smiled in a way that was too wide to be real. She saw the truck too. Her smile faltered, then tightened again. The code enforcement officer stepped out of the truck, clipboard in hand, and I saw the orange notice in his hands before he even said a word. "Cease and desist. Unauthorized enforcement actions," the notice read. Karen was still holding her binder, but it was trembling now. I could hear the heavy thump of my heart. and I could feel the weight of the entire neighborhood's eyes on me. The officer lifted his gaze to Karen. "Ma'am, we received complaints. We're here to investigate." Karen opened her mouth, but nothing came out. She stared at the officer, then at me, and the neighborhood held its breath. That moment marked the end of Karen's reign. Days passed. The city began an audit of the HOA's records. Neighbors started speaking out. People had seen the cracks in Karen's control for years, but no one had dared to challenge her before. Now, it seemed everyone was ready to stand up. They came to my defense in quiet, subtle ways, helping with groceries, walking dogs, offering support. Then, one night, I saw Karen at the edge of the lake, frantic, eyes wide. She was holding a bundle of papers wrapped in cloth. Before I could stop her, she threw them into the water. I watched, stunned, as the papers sank. "Karen," I whispered. She froze, looking back at me, wild-eyed. Then she did something no one expected. She crumbled under the weight of her actions. She dropped the papers into the water, and when she saw the officers approaching, she seemed smaller than I had ever seen her. I couldn't help it. I stepped forward. "You don't have to do this," I said softly. Karen shook her head. "If I don't, everything falls apart." "You're wrong," I said. "This isn't about control. It's about fear." But fear had taken over, and the moment shattered. A few days later, the community gathered. This wasn't a typical HOA meeting. No, this was different. Neighbors who had been quiet for years were now standing up. Even Tom and Emily, who had been avoiding the drama, stood beside me. They weren't scared anymore. Karen, face pale, tried to control the room, but it was too late. Her grip was slipping, and she knew it. The city had already taken action. They had suspended her from her position, and the truth about her financial manipulations was out. It was over for her. I stood outside later, watching as the neighborhood came together, no longer under the thumb of fear, but rising from it, piece by piece. Karen didn't come back that night. She was gone. But the truth had finally come out, and for the first time since I moved here, I could finally breathe.